The implementation of the Common Core State Standards has brought new, more rigorous standards that define what students must know and be able to do at each grade level, a mission that Clay County has embraced to the core. Achieving these higher expectations will require a different way of looking at teaching and assessing student progress. Work began in September of 2012 with teams of teachers from kindergarten through second grade representing each Clay County school. Teachers developed pacing guides to be used to map out their instruction for the year, strategically putting the more difficult standards first to ensure students would have more time to achieve mastery. Next, they looked at these year-long standards, or power standards as they called them, and chunked them into quarterly rubrics. From these, a new standards-based report card was developed. Let's take a look at a short video that explains the 3 major goals of a standards-based report card.
When the focus of grading is to give clear feedback and help the student take ownership over his own learning, it becomes a truly useful tool. All too often we forget the focus of grading. We give a grade to show a student what he did in the past, but forget to connect that to what he can do going forward. As teachers, we found that using standards-based grading enabled us to stay focused on giving more meaningful feedback to our students. Standards-based grading, or SBG, helps teachers do 3 things. 1. Learning goals. Standards-based grading helps us focus on the learning goals of our class. SBG is a grading system that focuses on the content, skills, or standards that students must learn. This means that when recording scores, the concern is not with a cumulative grade on a test, but rather the level of mastery the student has achieved on each concept assessed on that test. With that slight change, patterns begin to appear in the classroom as a whole and for individual students. The class may be struggling with a particular concept and may require the teacher to revise her instruction, or a student may show a pattern of weakness with a particular skill which can be individually addressed. 2. Assessments. Standards-based grading forces us to look at our curriculum and make sure that each activity, test and project has a purpose. With a clear idea of each learning goal, we can be more intentional about what each activity is for. When creating tests, we know exactly which skills need to be assessed. Existing homework assignments or activities that don't aid or assess any learning goals are clearly not necessary. 3. Feedback. Standards-based grading helps us give better feedback to our students. Once the goals of the class are clear, we can be clear with students about how well they were mastering the content. We used to say you must earn an 82% on the final to pass. With SBG we can say, you just need to focus on using clear evidence to support your claims. The focus is on skills instead of points. Standards-based grading is an assessment and feedback method that helps teachers stay focused on the goals of the class, align all parts of the curriculum to the course goals, and give students specific, actionable feedback about their strengths and weaknesses.
The faculty and staff of Clay County Schools believes what lies before them can be defined as a mission that we promise to work in cooperation with our students and parents to embrace change and continue providing a quality education. Therefore, we have developed 3 promises we believe make up our mission. We promise to provide feedback to parents and students that is specific and actionable. We promise to focus on skills, not points. We promise to set clear and consistent teaching and learning goals. Our current report card falls short of keeping these promises. In the first quarter of reading, this student made a B. What does the B really tell us? What does it mean? So with this mission in mind, teachers, administrators, and curriculum specialists set out to create Clay County's standards-based report card for kindergarten through second grade. Here's a snapshot of that report card. The report card is divided into 6 domains: reading informational text, reading literature, language, writing, speaking and listening, and math. Math is further broken into 5 or 6 areas depending on the grade. That include geometry, measurement, algebraic thinking, counting and cardinality, number and operations. Each quarter, the domain is marked with an M, P, or I to tell the parent if the student has already mastered the standard, is progressing on track to meet the standard by the end of the year, or making insufficient progress. Each domain is broken down into standards that are more specific. These standards help to define what students must know and be able to do to meet that domain. The standards or skills in each domain are marked with a slash if the child is doing well with that standard, or an X if they are not. The teacher might leave a space empty. That simply means the standard was not taught or assessed in that quarter. Let's take a closer look at a specific domain and its standards. For example, let's look at standards-based report card for the first grade. The first domain is the reading literature domain. As you can see, this domain is further broken down to a set of 8 standards. By the end of this child's first grade year, he or she should be able to independently and consistently ask and answer questions about key details in a text, retell stories using key details from the text, describe characters, settings, and major events in a story using key details and illustrations, identify words and phrases in stories or poems that suggest feelings, explain differences between literature and informational text, identify who is telling the story at various points, compare and contrast the adventures and experiences of characters in stories. With prompting and support, read prose and poetry appropriate for grade 1. So let's dive in a little deeper and take a look at the specific standards for a child we'll call Caleb. During the first quarter of Caleb's first grade year, he is marked with a P. This means Caleb is progressing towards mastery of the reading literature domain. The new standards-based report card doesn't stop there. If you look down the column of quarter 1 at the standards, you can see Caleb is moving towards proficiency in several standards. Ask and answer questions, retell stories, identify words and phrases, and identify who is telling the story. Remember, the blank spaces are areas that have not been taught or assessed yet. However, you will notice Caleb's teacher has marked an area of concern as Caleb is struggling to describe characters, setting, and major events in stories. Now, Caleb's parents have specific and actionable feedback to help at home. Check. The report card has done its job by focusing on skills, not points. Check. And the goals set for Caleb are clear and consistent. Check. Mission accomplished. There are 3 important things to keep in mind as you progress throughout the year with your child. With a standards-based system, to meet the standard, the student must be able to do this independently and consistently. Simply, they either can do it or they can't do it. We don't want children reading on grade level only 80% of the time. Mastery is not expected until the end of the year. Parents will want to look at each domain to ensure their child is progressing or on track for mastery by the end of the year. At the end of the year, there is no specific formula for deciding if a child should be promoted or retained. Retention is based upon the individual need of the child. When a student has significant areas of concern and another year is needed to consistently and independently master the standards for that grade level, then the student may be retained. Many students with areas of concern will be promoted, but additional interventions and support will be needed at the next grade level because, for example, they need to have mastered the first grade skills before they can begin working on second grade skills. So with those 3 important things in mind, let's take a final look at Caleb's report card at the end of the year. The majority of the standards under the domain Reading Literature show that Caleb progressed nicely through the year, with slight struggles in using key details to describe characters, setting, and major events in a story. By the middle of the year, quarter 2 and 3, he was moving toward proficiency in all the standards under the Reading and Literature domain. And at year's end, Caleb had consistently and independently mastered all the standards in that domain. There is another very important part of the new report card that has not been mentioned. Often thought of as conduct and study habits, personal development skills are also very important for success in school. Teachers will use the traditional S, N, or U to identify the degree to which each child demonstrates these skills in the learning environment. The new Clay County Standards-Based Report Card has also been explained in a brochure that every parent will receive. It also includes the answers to the questions we expect most parents will have. One of these frequently asked questions is, how exactly will teachers assess student progress? This report card is much more detailed than the traditional report card. How are the teachers expected to track each student's progress? Teachers will use a number of assessments. Teachers may often use a rubric, like the one pictured, to measure how well a student's work meets the content standard. Frequently, examples of student work will be collected as evidence of student progress and kept in a student portfolio. In addition to rubrics, other forms of authentic or non-traditional assessments will be used to help evaluate a student's progress toward mastery. Achieving these higher expectations will require continuous progress monitoring to ensure that students are successful at meeting grade level standards. Students' work will be retained in a portfolio to document their strengths and challenges. Parents can expect student journals and lots of writing rather than worksheets. Homework that extends learning and connected to a standard. Student work with teacher comments rather than grades. Students working collaboratively. Students graduating ready for college and the workforce. We began this process with a mission statement and a promise to provide feedback to parents and students that is specific and actionable. Focus on skills, not points. Set clear and consistent teaching and learning goals. We believe this new standards-based report card will ensure the success of our promises made. However, work will continue throughout the year to evaluate the effectiveness of our new grading system. So what at times might feel like a mission impossible will become a mission possible.